It's Monday, the 23rd of March. I'm in the UK, so it's 11:15. And I'm recording this and pretty much putting it straight out with no edits. This is coming to you as a little bit more unpolished than you're used to my other videos. The reason being is earlier on, it was announced by Paramount that Star Trek Starfleet Academy has been cancelled. Now, this comes just over 24 hours since I released my season 1 review video. And I was pretty positive. I'm pretty positive about Starfleet Academy. I was surprised by how much I really, really liked it. I thought it was a good show. And I do think there's some stuff that it needs work on. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it was a good show that deserved more than what it's now getting, because it's now not going to get a chance to work on the issues that first season had. Yes, they've already filmed season 2 and it's going to go into post-production now, and hopefully we'll see it in a year or so. But things being the way they are, I mean, Batwoman or Batgirl was made and then never seen the light of day. So let's not be surprised if that does happen, and hopefully it doesn't. But as you can probably tell, I'm pretty upset about it. I'm pretty angry. I just don't think this is a fair thing to do. I think like they should have at least given it till the end, at least midway through season 2, to see how it's done. Look, I'm not surprised it's being cancelled. Like, obviously, Paramount is in a merger with like Warner Media, so they've come in and they've gone, this is how, clean slate, let's work on this, we want to work on these things and that and that and that. So obviously any previous projects were likely to be on the chopping board or under serious consideration as to whether or not they would continue with them. So I'm not 100% surprised. I am disappointed about the way it happened. I mean, like, let's talk about this, because I in my review I said it was the best first season of a Star Trek show. I mean, I'm not saying the best, but I'm saying one of the best, right? And I think back to like the likes of The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager, which that was my era of Star Trek. That's why I brought up. I started watching Star Trek, in the late 80s, early 90s, and I went through that entire decade, the 90s, watching Star Trek. And so I, especially Deep Space Nine and Voyager, I vividly remember when they came out, and every first season of Star Trek was always a joke, like that it wasn't particularly good, that it would grow into itself over time. And that's when we were in an era where we had like 24 episodes per season to give them a chance to actually grow. So they'd have those 24 episodes, and they would get they have the Nielsen ratings as well, on episode to episode, so they'd be able to sort of go, okay, so this one's done well and this one hasn't, and then they'd get a chance to sort of work on it. Season 2 would come around, and they had a chance to even throughout a season they could make changes accordingly. This is very different. This is like 10 episodes. Seasons are very short. Nielsen, it's interesting, like the article that I sort of shared a screenshot, a picture of on Threads, was from Variety, and they brought up that the Nielsen ratings were never good for the series. And it's an interesting one, because how does Nielsen work in today's streaming world? Like, it's harder now. Like, it's harder to get a show to get the same coverage as it did in the 90s. And the Nielsen is based on eyeballs watching, and like they claim they've got like streaming numbers now, and it's all changed that way. But television is consumed very, very differently now. A lot of people will not watch things as they come out. They may end up watching a show a week or two later. And a lot of people will probably wait until an entire season is out, and then they'll binge the entire thing in one go, because they don't want to wait for it weekly. They want to watch the whole thing at once. So I find the Nielsen, like, basing the ratings on like that first week, they weren't in the top 10 and so on and so forth. It's like, well, yeah, first of all, Star Trek is a niche interest these days. It's not got the popular appeal that it did in the 90s. And even then, like, I think we're fooling ourselves if we say that, yes, it was a big franchise and it was well known, but the amount of people who actually sat and watched and dedicated their time to Star Trek was a lot smaller than the um, imprint it had on the cultural zeitgeist of the 90s. People got bullied for watching Star Trek or liking Star Trek. Yes, it was huge and it was referenced and so on and so forth, but people got bullied. So, but like, because there was like a dearth of like other things to watch, people, there would be Nielsen records. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say is Star Trek has always been sort of a niche appeal thing. So you're fighting against that to try and get people to watch it in the first place. And then you've got the other side of things. And this is something that I've spoken of a couple of times. I spoke about it in my last video, the season review. I did a whole video on it as well. And it's to do with like the backlash like against this show. And a backlash against a lot of like what is called New Trek, and I don't like it being called New Trek because it's used as a slur against Star Trek, really. But stuff against this era of Star Trek. There's a lot of people turn to social media now to sort of understand, should I watch something or what's the general feel about it? And the problem with social media, and especially YouTube, especially this platform right here, which I appreciate the, irony of me also posting on here, talking about Star Trek and talking about geeky things that I love. But I am like a drop in the ocean. First of all, very small creator. You can see by my viewer count and the my subscriber count. Not a lot of people subscribe to me. Not a lot of people watch me at this moment in time. But I'm up against not only other small creators my size, but when it comes to the geek space, it's dominated by sort of the anti-woke nerd. Like, your critical drinkers, your nerdrotic, and even like other ones who maybe were fairer in the past that have now moved into that sort of anti-woke. And because the algorithm on YouTube rewards engagement, and that's a fair thing. People should want to watch your video, and you should make a good video. But even if you make a good video, what matters is like the packaging of that video. So it's the thumbnails and the description and the title of it. And what gets people engaged in stuff is negativity bias and basically anger. So outrage. And these channels sort of feed on that, and they get their viewership from that sort of anger and that rage and that anti-woke stuff, because people are like, they get upset and then they take advantage of that and they get monetized for it. That's another thing as well, but they take advantage of it. And what ends up happening is because these people dominate the space on YouTube and social media, when other people are maybe doing some research into, should I watch this show, or what are people saying about this show, rather than coming across like people who actually do like it or are nuanced. I mean, like, the other thing, there are people who don't like the show. That's perfectly fine, by the way. Like, you cannot like the show, but there are people who are much more nuanced, and like they'll go, I don't like this show, but there are some good sides to it, or I just don't like this show, but I can give you some reasons why I don't like it, and I can talk it through, and so on and so forth, and then you can make your own decision mind up from there. Instead of that, we're getting like, this is the death of Star Trek. It's woke. It's terrible. It's killing Star Trek. It's Star Trek in name only. If you like this, you're not a real fan of Star Trek. So on and so forth, and that is dominating the space. So you imagine you're fairly neutral. You don't know what's going to be like. You do your research. That's what you're coming across. It'll put you off. It would put you off. Absolutely would put you off Star Trek. So I think like the show was sort of putting up, had a lot going against it. Like, don't get me wrong, like this current series of like Star Trek since Discovery has been hit and miss for me. Like, I think Discovery averages out to be fine. Like, I think it had some very good things in it, but I also think it had some very bad things in it. I didn't like the focus on Michael Burnham as a character, and when they're like the joke and things always said, like, we didn't know a lot of the bridge crew, and when they did get something, they got killed. Arium, for example. I thought Saru was a much more interesting character. The Burn, which is a main focus of Starfleet Academy. Ironically, I think in Starfleet Academy they gave a better tool that the burn could have been done through Omega 47. That would have been so much more interesting as a reason why the burn happened. Instead, I wasn't on board with how the burn was explained, basically a crying child. Not great. Not great. And when you have things like that, Picard seasons 1 and 2 not landing well, as the last season of Strange New Worlds has been sort of up and down and not as well received as the first two seasons. When you've got all of that working against sort of any Star Trek, this show is being released at a time when people are doubting the quality of Star Trek. The background against it is the online, the online landscape is hatred and anti-woke and all. It's this is not worth your time. Rage bait, essentially. It had a hard journey. It had a hard place it was coming into. I think personally it did well. I think it was well written. I think it was well performed. I think there's a lot of redeeming features in it. I think there's, as I mentioned, I've already said this before, I think there's some stuff that it could work on. I think it kind of, I think actually dropped the young adult stuff towards the end of the season. It got really, really good. I got disappointed with things like seeing Darum in episode 1 as in his natural Kionian form, and then never seeing it again, even when he goes back to like his kingdom, his own home, not his home world, but his home territory, and meets other Kionians, and then none of them look like that. Anyway, this is not the video for that. You can go watch my season review. But I think like it came into sort of like a hard place. I don't think it had a fair chance, and I think it did very well. And I think if you watch it with a fair mind and open mind, you'd be surprised at how good it actually is. It's worthy of the Star Trek name, and I think especially the way it ends is, again, not without its issues, but really good. And it's not. One of the things I love is that it's not lasers and battles that solve the end of the day. It's a speech. It's teamwork and a speech that save the day. And I think like that is Star Trek. That you don't need to use your fists. You don't need to use action. You don't need to use violence to solve an issue. It's using your wits, using the people around you, working with the people around you. That's what it was. So I think like it ended very well. So the other thing though is this is a scary time now to be a Star Trek fan. Now I'm old enough to I'm 43. I'm old enough to remember when Star Trek went off the air after that long run from 1987 through till 2003 with the end of Enterprise. And I remember, I watched all of Star Trek at the time. There was always Star Trek on, and I remember how weird it was when there was no more Star Trek, and no one kind of knew, like Nemesis was still to come out, but like after that, no one really knew what was going to happen next. It was like, it went into limbo. And yeah, we got like 2009 Star Trek came out, which was, it was fine. I enjoy it. It's a good film. It's not, I'll make, do you know what? That's going to be a video for another time, my thoughts on sort of different phases of Star Trek films. But the point is, when Star Trek came to an end after Enterprise, it was a weird time. Like Star Trek had been, like, again, as I said earlier on, part of the cultural zeitgeist. It was a big mainstay in the 90s. People knew it. Even if people didn't watch it, they knew it existed. And it's crazy how quickly, when something is not part of that zeitgeist anymore, there's not a regular part of it, how quickly it can fall out of the public consciousness. And that happened with Star Trek. So, we had that period, from 1987 all the way through 2003 to so what, 16 years of Star Trek. Insane, brilliant. And now we've had 11 years of new Star Trek, and it's crazy because we're now going into a stage where, yeah, we've got season 2 of Starfleet Academy to come out. We've got the end of Strange New Worlds as well to come out. So they've got 2 more seasons as well. Well, 1 season and a short one. So we have got some more Star Trek. There is still some more to come out, but there's nothing in production now. There's nothing being made. And that's scary. Like last time Star Trek was off TV for over 10 years. And it could be over 10 years again. Like it's this the nature of TV has changed a lot nowadays. TVs are more like movies in their own right. They're shorter runs, they're shorter seasons, shorter runs. You don't get these long running TVs. I mean, even the relaunch of Scrubs, a sitcom, less than half hour episodes. It's only got 10 episodes. So it's like TV is not made the same anymore. So in 10 years' time, again, will there be space for more Star Trek TV? And that scares me, because it's not that a case of that there's not going to be any Star Trek TV. Like, it's not that it could be 10 years before we get more Star Trek TV. It's that will it be a format that's just gone? Like, will there be a space for Star Trek TV at all? Now, technically speaking, we've got that, Strange New Worlds to finish off, hopefully Starfleet Academy to come out as well. There is this new Star Trek movie that was announced as well, with John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, the ones behind the Dungeons and Dragon movie. That's been announced. I mean, we'll see if it happens, but that's been announced, so that's potentially something. But it's a movie, it's not a TV show. And as we are now in Star Trek 60th, it is crazy to think that there's nothing on the cards. Like, we could be seeing the complete death of Star Trek, at least for a long time. If you cast your mind back to the 30th anniversary of Star Trek, 1996, Deep Space Nine did the episode Trials and Tribulations, where they went back to the Trouble of Tribbles episode and they scoped the characters in. It was a fantastic episode. Absolutely loved it. It's one of the Deep Space Nine episodes that I regularly rewatch. You had that, and Voyager had the episode Flashback, where Tuvok went. Turns out Tuvok was serving on the Excelsior during the events of the Undiscovered Country. So we saw that, and we saw Captain Sulu a bit more. We had the Frasier sketch where they were auditioning for Voyager. We had so much happening in that 30th year of the 30th anniversary of Star Trek, but the 60th, the Cerritos and the Protostar didn't even make the little fancy title sequence they made before Starfleet Academy. Like, they seem to be just sort of brushing the 60th under the rug and just forgetting about it. And that really, really scares me, that even in its 60th year, they can't do anything. And it makes me think, in the 70th year, what will we have? I don't know. I don't know. I think one of the things that's going to hurt the most is, like, I've already scrolled through YouTube. If you type in Star Trek and you scroll through YouTube, it's already started to happen. And I think you know what I'm going to talk about next. But there is a lot of people who are celebrating this news like it's a victory. And it is for them in a way. But it's also a loss, and they don't realize it. But they're too blinkered in their hatred that they can't see the bigger picture. But yeah, it's a lot of people who are going to be celebrating this. There's already videos gloating over this. And to them, just don't be better. I again, this is part of my season review. Just be better. And this is, if you, the grifters themselves are not going to care. The likes of your Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and Angry Joe review and all of them, they're not going to care what I say. They don't care. They don't even know who I am. They don't care what I say. But the fans, the people who are fans of those, that's your source for everything. Just don't be bare. Like, if you're actually a fan of Star Trek, you'll know that Star Trek is about curiosity, and it's about acceptance as well, and it's about listening to other people and hearing other viewpoints. And a lot of these people will actually say, well, that's what Star Trek's all about, is about, talking and exploring, and these new series don't do that. Well, now it's time for you to show that. There are people who like this show, even if you didn't. And that's great. And it's great that you didn't like it as well, because that is infinite diversity and infinite combinations. So if you're thinking of dancing on the grave and gloating on other people's feeds, other people's videos, other people's I've seen TikToks already. I've seen posts on Threads. I've seen posts on other social media platforms, and I've seen videos on here where people are upset or whatever. If your first thought is to go in and gloat and say serves them right and all of these things, it says more about you than it says about the show. It says more about you than it says about the person who is grieving or upset. And we need to do better. You need to do better. So, yeah, I haven't planned what I'm saying in this video. I'm upset. I've seen a petition going around, a Chnage petition, and I've signed it. But obviously, I don't think it will make a difference. But hey, B. Joe Trimble, 1968, letter writing campaign gave Star Trek the original series a third season. So it might happen. It probably won't, but it might. The only thing that could redeem this entire thing is if Paramount turned around and went, we're giving Star Trek to Tawny Newsome and Jonathan Frakes. Then, fine. But right now, I don't know. Thanks for watching.